welcome to that spiritual, actual, factual answers to questions you're asking. You find them inside you, recite you, reciting the records of cash. We laughing, we drafting the passion through various. It's time for that comedy, dramedy, all of the fanciest, catchiest acronyms. Listeners, listen, we traveling. Conscious is always unraveling. The reading you're having is mapping you back to your natural habitat. Abracadabra, it's magic, let's basking it. To top it off, the host, all the classiest. Now, what were you asking for? All of the answers? What? All the answers.
There's a product, I think we've talked about it before, called Muscle Milk. And I'm just like, why? Who?
I think because of that, they went for it.
I guess so. They just went for it, but it's just out there on a shelf. Like, maybe it's full of like creatine or some bodybuilding shit. I don't know. Muscle milk.
Yes, dick juice is what it is.
But it's also just dick juice. But because it's probably drunk by dicks. Guys are like, yeah, muscle milk.
It'd be cool if when your masculinity is that out of control, you could actually sip juice through your dick like a straw.
Like an elephant. I love it.
So you're like on a date with a guy and he just like, you're talking about your mom and where you're from.
It's like he doesn't want to stop. I just want to keep looking into your eyes, girl.
And he just takes his dick out, sticks it in your, he's like, can I have a sip of your latte?
Oh God. See, I had him at a bar, like making intense eye contact and then just taking his beer off the bar and it drops below your eye line. You're like, where's he going? And you hear a zip. He's like, is he peeing in his drink? But then he brings it back up and it's empty. And it's like a magic trick.
That's really funny.
I had a whole visual story.
I'm impressed. Okay, speaking of whole stories, I have been dating America. I have been dating.
Do you mean HOLE stories?
Speaking of whole stories, my vagina. No.
Take my vagina, please. No, seriously.
Please take it. Put something in it. Anybody want to put anything in it? Could somebody put something in? Nope. Okay. Oh, Cassidy, I have stories. Cassidy Brown, and they're related to our podcast.
Are they about dating and the light?
Yeah, of course, because it's me.
All right, I'm gonna ask you some questions to lead you into these.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Good. All right. So, Katie Rubin,
yep.
I was just listening to an earlier episode, maybe 2 ago, but still
fun.
And you were like, "I hate it here. I want to leave."
In New York.
And we were in Beacon specifically, just because you were like, winter, the seasonal affective disorder had kicked in.
That's right.
All this, so you would literally say, I'm sad. I'm sad. I'm sad. And you're also lonely. True. And you're like, I can't get any peen.
Nobody at that moment had sucked any juice from their dick in front of me.
No, there had been no dick straws. Dickstra is a name that people have.
That's good.
John Dickstraw.
John.
I have to bring someone on by that name just as a guest. You earned the shot at a guest spot just by having the name Dickstra.
And Dickstra.
All right.
But
now I'm going to ask you, did you go via the digital app way or did you meet humans? I mean, they were still humans, but they were digital first.
I got onto the applications. I have to apologize. I'm trying to send Richard, our guest today,
the link.
Link to this, and I'm realizing I haven't, and so I'm just going to real quick do that. Richard Horsman. His name is Horsman. That's pretty close, but it's Horsman. But still. What did we Dickstra?
Dickstraw? Not at all, but I mean, it's 2 syllables. And horses have dicks sometimes.
Oh my God. Hold on one second. All right. So thank you for the question. Carry on. I apologize for my distraction. I'm fully present now.
The apps. You can go ahead and name them. Name us which ones. More than one?
I decided, here's what I decided. Y'all know of my stalking story from the apps. Okay, Colorado. So I got real scared of the apps. Then I realized you're not afraid of the apps. You're afraid of men who stalk you. The app didn't stalk you. Okay. It's a reasonable concern, but I had to get to like, listen, this is a practical way to meet human mammals. Like, let's be practical, you know? And then I also was like reminding myself, listen, I knew on date 1 with that guy, there was weirdness about him and I didn't listen to myself. So that's the teaching. It's not about apps are bad, you know? Anyway, so I decided also though, like, I don't want overwhelm with all the 78 apps. And then what happens for me is I'm like, people start the initial conversation of dating on these apps like easily. It's a lot of like, hey girl, hi. Oh, where are you from? Connecticut, this, that. Like everybody's, now you're talking to 70 people and it's hard to track like, who to actually go down a rabbit hole with. Like, who do I invest any time in? Because I've selected only the people I find attractive, so I'm already attracted to all of them. How do I like who do you bother to be like, well, so I'm from Miami and my story of life and la la la. So then I decided, okay, I'm going to simplify this. I'm going to go on one app and I'm going to have it be one where the filling in of the initial form is like complex enough that I get to say a lot about myself and not, so it's a lot of, there it is. I'm this person, So it's Match.com.
Oh, going old school.
Old school. Because I also feel like if you're willing to go on Match.com, you might be in my age bracket. And you might be like, we're going to share some cultural references. You might be a grown-ass man. Like, I don't know, So it's been really kind of great, actually.
You could also be like a 65-year-old rancher, I feel like.
There's a lot of that. There is a lot of that.
No, there's anything wrong with a 65-year-old rancher. I mean, that's
no, but I'm not 65.
Dude,
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, it's been productive. So I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 dates set up. Like I've been on 2 of 4 dates that will have happened by the end of this week. So good numbers, don't you think?
Yeah, 2 of 4 dates. Okay.
So I went on one on Sunday.
4 people and set up 4 dates, and you've gone on 2 of them.
Yep, I went on Sunday with a guy. Boy, was that a story. I went last night with a guy who that was a story. And a kind of a better one, but still like, what the fuck? And then I have another one Thursday evening and another one Saturday daytime, day date style.
Okay.
Now, let me ask you a question. Would you like to hear the story of the one that was...
The big nope?
Like outer space, crazy levels of what? Do you want to hear that one?
Yes, of course. No, I don't want to hear an awesome story about wacky stuff.
Or do you want to hear the one that was like weirdly intimate, really fast, super sexy and hot, and then confusing and sad, and I've had to talk to 4 girlfriends about it already?
I think the first one, just for fun story, and then we'll decide if we want to hear the second one if we have time.
All right. The second one is a better story in terms of there's like actual human dynamics at play. There's complexity. It's like...
All right. So it's relevant to our whole podcast mission. Whatever. Oh, it matters.
Oh, it's relevant to your feelings and your life, I guess.
Yeah, I guess you care about feelings and shit. Okay, let's hear that one. To be honest. I'm hearing from you what I'm hearing... What I'm hearing you say. For me.
The way it lands for me, when you're saying that, I
hear what I'm hearing, and I could be way off, but what I'm hearing is that you actually think that the second story is more what you want to tell and germane to everything.
Yeah.
Great. Let's do that. And,
how about I tell you the first story incredibly quickly?
Yeah, just tell me the do wackadoo.
Okay.
Go.
Chit-chatty back and forth with a dude. To be fair, he called himself, I don't want to out people, so I won't say the actual thing he called himself, but it was something equivalent to, this was his name on his profile, Galactica.
Okay, so in that...
No, that's not it, but close to that.
Right, okay. Well, but still, that might mean he's kind of in your weird woo-woo space.
Right. So I was like, all right, Galactica, go ahead. So he says in his profile some shit like, after the awakening, we still live life or something. I was like, this guy's thought about some shit. Then he says some abstract thinky stuff. And he's like, the app asks you like, what do you want to talk about on the first date? And his response is like, things I've never thought of, concepts that are new. And I'm like, thoughtful individual, like, let's try it out. So we do some banter. And you know how on dating app banter, like, you don't know, they could be a murderer and be good at banter. Like, banter is so much easier for people than I used to understand. Anyway, good banter. He's intelligent. He seems sensitive. We're talking astrology right away because he brings it up. And I'm like, yes. So, but also, uh-oh.
Isn't that funny that we know ourselves, we know the pitfalls of the worst parts of what we represent. And then we're worried, like, I know I'm the cool kind of what I am.
Yes.
But boy, there's a lot of not cool kinds of what I am.
He could be the worst. Anyway, so he's talking astrology. I'm like, oh, cool. And then it turns out we're both Aquarian. And I'm like, well, that's really fun. And I'm like, so you're a big weirdo. And he's like, yeah, how'd you know? And I'm like, well, I know astrology. And he's like, blah, blah, blah. So we chit, and the first sentence that he had said to me was, would you like to share your phone number with me? And I went like, no, but let's chit chat a little. And then if I think you're not a murderer, haha, I'll send you my number. So he was like, fair enough. And I said, I've had some bad experiences on here. So I try to da-da-da. So we have like a long conversation over the course of a day, back and forth, back and forth. And by the end of it, I go, I don't think you're going to murder me. Do you happen to be free tonight for drinks? Same day. And he says, yeah, sure. So we make a time. I say 7:00 because I was in the middle of an editing job and I needed to get it done. I was editing a student's book and I had a bunch of chapters. I had to finish it. It was like 3:00 in the afternoon. I said, I'll be done around 6:30. I could get to you by 7. He says, great. About half an hour later, he texts me through the app and says, so are you still editing? I go, yeah, I have to edit until 6:30 so I can see you at 7. He goes, oh, well, if you're available earlier, there's a park near the restaurant. And I go, oh, okay, it's 20 degrees out. I'm not sure I'm up for a park walk today. And I also, let me get back to this because I can't see you if I don't finish. And he was like, how would 6 p.m. be? And I'm like, this dude is not hearing the words I'm saying. So I go, I am editing. Like I told you, I can't be there till 7. And then he doesn't respond and disappears. No words back, just like gone. I'm like, okay. Then I finish early. I edit hard for 2 hours. It's 6:00 and I message him and I go, hey, I actually finished early. I can meet you at 6:30 if that's better for you. Same place, half hour earlier, ? No response. We've exchanged numbers. So I send the same message to his text. Hey, I finished early. Want to do 6:30 instead of 7? No response. 15 minutes go by. I'm putting makeup on and he writes back, oh, change of plans? And I go, yeah, I just finished early. Do you want to meet earlier? And he said, can you call me? And I go, sure, but why don't we just meet half an hour earlier? And he's like, I'll call you. Never mind. I'm like, what? So he calls me on the phone. Oh, and he types, can you call me? Because I'm confused. And I go, confused about what? And he says, where to meet? And I go, let's meet at the same place just half an hour earlier. I've said it like 3 times now. If that works for you. And I keep saying, does that work for you? And he's not answering that part. So he goes, can you call me? So he calls me. Hi, Katie. We had said the diner and you had said that you were editing. And then you had said that you would be done at 6:30 and then we would meet. And I hadn't had food since breakfast and I tried to wait, but I got so hungry that I had to eat. And so now you don't want to go to the diner and you want to meet earlier? And I was like, I need to not go out with this person. What do I say? What do I do now? What is happening? So I go, I was editing. I finished early. We can meet earlier or not. We can go to the same spot, but I was exploring the possibility of trying a different spot. Is that okay? Okay. Where is it? Well, it's the other restaurant you mentioned, so I assume you know where it is. Okay. Where is it? And twice he asks, and I go, do you have GPS on your phone? I won't be using GPS. No. Just fucking weird.
Oh boy.
So I'm like, well, this is a hard no, but now my curiosity is piqued. So I'm kind of like,
I want to at least be in his field for just a minute.
What is this? So we figure out the big, terrible, complicated question of what a restaurant is called. And we manage to meet at a place at a time. He's handsome. Turns out he's cute. And he's wearing the key to what
space pants.
Kinda. The key to what I can only assume is his house is in a key-shaped plastic container pinned to the front of his members only jacket. Like his mommy pinned a key to his jacket so he's 44 years old.
Honey.
Mm-hmm. So we sit down and he says, I think probably the first sentence out of his mind is he was like, do you remember on the 1999 episode of Jock Jams how DJ Jazzy Jeff...
I'm going to go on a limb and say this person has some developmental differences slightly.
Right.
So now I'm feeling a little bad about laughing about him, but still.
I understand.
But still, this is challenging as hell.
Now, here's the interesting turn. I know, because I don't want this to be, just a shitting on into mental differences episode. But here's the turn. I sort of realized pretty quickly this is either Asperger's or just a really eccentric human who is in his own little planet. So I decided I'm going to gear shift into friend mode and I'm going to just have his back.
Right.
I'm going to try to track his weird reality. I'm definitely not going to be dating him, but I'm going to like stay here and do this.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to like have this guy's back. As it turns out, he's such a weirdo, but like so fearlessly so that I was like, all right, he's like an eccentric, artsy weirdo. Turns out he plays guitar. He's a talented musician. He's an Aquarius. He knows a lot about consciousness. We have great conversations about the Brahmins in India. We had like the most interesting, complex, convoluted, all over the place conversation, peppered with a lot of him not being able to listen to words I'm saying and wanting to say a lot of his own words. Like he literally like couldn't hear things I would say. He would just sort of steamroll over what I was saying, and I would have to stop and be like, did you hear a second ago when I said this sentence? And I'd say it again, and he'd be like, what? Oh, say it one more time? And I'd be like, okay, something's not like processing.
Something's going on. Yeah, his processing is different. So like, yeah, that's a good shift to have made. You're like, I'm aware that I can't be in a romantic relationship with this person, but let me get down with him in the sandbox and see what's going on.
Exactly. So by the end of the time, we had some really fun conversations. I was actually really happy I went. It like got me out of my house. I had a nice dinner. I ate Brussels sprouts in public. It's fine. We get,
I don't eat Brussels sprouts in public. That's a privacy of your own home kind of a thing.
We get to the end of it, and he's like, very sweetly, like, you're very pretty, and I feel attracted to you, and would you go out with me again? And I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. You're the best. You're making my month. Thank you for saying that. Yes, I would hang out with you again, I say. And he says, we could do the walk over Hudson. Do you want to do the walk over Hudson? And I'm like, I've done it, but maybe. So we go outside, and he says, all right, well, I'll text you then. I'll text you. I go, sure, text me. So, and I'm thinking like, all right, I'm going to break it to him at some point. Like, hey, I'd like to be friends. If you're okay with that, let's do that. But I'm not able to date, And by the time I get home, there's a message in the app from him. I don't know why he's now writing in the app. And he says, how would you have felt if I had kissed you on the cheek? There's a palpable connection here. You get me.
Because you do.
I know, but I'm a healer.
Right. So
I get everybody, but not with his peen.
Did you step in on that? Have you responded to that yet?
No, I didn't respond.
All right. You got to get on that quick, but
I don't do it. I might just leave it.
No, don't ghost it.
No?
Don't ghost it.
Okay.
No. I mean, I don't know. You also have to protect yourself from weird energy.
Yeah, but say more about that.
I mean, he's
such a nice dude that he doesn't deserve that.
That's hard. That sucks to be.
Okay.
Especially because you did say like, sure, yeah. And then,
right.
He is following up on that and said a very nice thing in response.
Right.
So you just got to like step into that and be like, hey, I just want to, absolutely like had a really wonderful time with you. But you could even like lay it at the feet of your like, I am someone who like reads energies or whatever. And I can tell that it's not romantic for me in this context.
Right.
And I just want to, nip that in the bud and be very clear because you're an awesome dude and deserve that,
That's really good. That's really sweet. You're right. That's a good call. Okay. That's what I'll do.
I love how that took a turn though. Like I really love the part where
it's good, right?
Didn't shut off the weirdo, because that's gonna be a standard thing that we're gonna do in general. And you went
totally.
Okay, wait. Who is this person? Let me step into his field.
Let's connect. Yeah, and not like shut him out. It was nice. And really, honestly, I mean, I'm a fucking weird lady with my own mental weirdness. Like, I get it. Yeah. I empathize.
Oh, I get when you're saying weirdo, you're not going like, ew, weirdo. You're saying like,
in fact, one of the conversations we had.
Fellow weirdos, yeah.
Exactly. I said to him like, well, it's because you're an eccentric Aquarius. And he goes, you think I'm eccentric? And I was like, yeah, dude.
That's the weird self-aware part. We're like, you got to know you're eccentric, right?
And I said that to him. I said, you have to know you're 44. You've lived on this earth a while. You have to know you're not like the average person, right? And he was like, well, what do you mean? And I was like, okay.
Oh, boy.
If you don't know that, we got more work to do than I even thought. So, it went like that. Okay, so that was supposed to be a short story that turned into not the short story.
Yeah, and our guest is going to be here any minute, but we'll see.
And I have talked with Richard, who's coming on right now, briefly about the second date a little bit. Why don't I catch you up?
All right, and then we'll get him on Richard's and we'll continue.
Exactly. The shortest version, oh God, how am I going to do it? We've been talking for about 3 days. Phone, there have been telephone calls, there have been voice memos, there's been texting. This other dude and I.
All right, so voice words have been exchanged.
Voice words have been exchanged. The pictures of him on the dating app are hot dad. He's 50, he's hot, he's dad of 2 like adult children who are out of the house, hot. He talks about them with a lot of warmth in his heart, hot. He's tall and rides motorcycles, hot.
Is he a zaddy?
He's a zaddy. Full zaddy. Zaddy all day. Where the fuck did that term come from?
I have no idea. I feel like it was first applied to Jeff Goldblum.
Interesting.
He's like the ultimate zaddy.
I asked a zillennial recently, can you please help me understand the origin of this term?
So this was a zennial, not a millennial, but a
correct.
Post-millennial zennial.
Yep, a zillennial, they call themselves.
I thought it was just zennial.
I don't know. That's what she says. Zillennial.
Oh, it's even better.
I don't fucking know. Anyway, she says, I go, where does zaddy start? She's like, I don't know. It just means hot daddy. And I'm like, but why Z? And she's like, I don't know. We just say it. I'm like, okay, great.
Because that's what we do. We just Z things.
We just like run the world and say what we want. I just like do what I want. Fuck you.
Okay, well.
That took a turn. I hate her.
That's real, though. That's how they are. They're very like, I don't actually hate it. They're just like, give no fucks.
Yeah.
They give no fucks, which I give them credit for.
Yeah.
But sometimes it can be very like bitchy. It's like, yeah, just like I didn't feel like doing what my boss said. Fuck him. And I'm like, okay. Anyway, so, hot daddy. He's a hot daddy. So we a lot of talking. I'm talking about like the level of in the morning, he's texting me good morning at this point. And at night, he's going, hey, sleep tight. And in the middle of the day, he's going, hey, how's your afternoon? Like we're like into it, right?
Yeah.
And there are vibes, and he is hot, and I am into it. And he's told me he thinks I'm hot, and I've told him I think he's hot, and it's like kind of like going good places, right? And I've learned about his kids and where they're going to college, and he knows about my blah, blah, blah. Like we've like had conversations before we meet. Okay, the night before the date was last night. The night before the date, which is Sunday night, I get horny, like real horny.
Okay.
Okay, and it takes over my body. And I'm like sitting there texting him and I'm like, do I say something? Do I say something? Don't say it. Don't be in it. Don't do it. But I want to, but don't do it. And I'm back and forth. So I say to him, I'm doing my best over here. I'd like you to know to be mature and appropriate. We haven't met yet, but I really want to talk a little bit about how much I want to get on you. And he says, on, huh? And I go, yeah. And he goes, hey, you can be inappropriate. Don't be shy. And I go, okay. So I kind of go like, the hot words and hot words. Okay. And he is into it. And he's supportive, of course, because he's a human male. We have some flirty back and forth. He goes, well, we don't need to meet in between where you live and where I live. Why don't I meet you in your town? And then we'll just, like, head to your place real quick. And I go, sweet.
See what happens.
Yeah, it was like we had planned like drinks and sex is kind of what happened in that conversation.
Pause. Richard's here. Should I let him in or you want to catch up?
Let me just get you there. We're almost there. Okay.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Super sexy. We end it. I stop texting him. He's good night. And then there's a lot of self-pleasuring that happens. And I wake up in the morning and I'm feeling a little bit embarrassed because I realize I should have masturbated before I texted him and gotten all that out and not been like, I'm a big whore, deal with me. So he says, because he's great, good morning the next morning. And I go, good morning. And I'm all shy. And he's like, how are you feeling this morning? And I go, well, to be honest, a little bit shy after coming on so strong to you last night. I'm feeling a little embarrassed. And he says, hey, I totally get, or first he says, what? So you're saying we're not doing shots at sex tonight? LOL. And I go, I did set myself up for that one. My apologies. And he's like, listen, let's do our original plan. I would like to have sex with you anytime you want to have sex with me, but there should be no pressure here. I don't want you to feel pressure. Don't worry. We'll chill. We'll have dinner. It'll be great. I go, you're the best. He like totally put me at ease. He handled it really well. We meet at this restaurant. He's hot, he's tall, his hands are ginormous, which I love. Oh my God. And then we have dinner, we talk, it's going great. Banter, charm, intelligent, great. It comes to talking about my work. And he's like, okay, so wait, energy, but over the phone, how does that work? And I explain it. We talk about time and space and we talk about all kinds of deep shit. And eventually I say something, I swear I'm wrapping up. I say, yeah, I mean, and if we ever touch each other, I'm going to know your whole life story. Ha 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 ha. And he goes, huh? And I go, yeah, if we ever touch each other, like touch each other, that's when I'll feel everything. And he was like, well, that's intimidating. And I go, oh, well, yeah, that's what'll happen. And he's like, okay, takes a sip of his beer. And I'm like, or does that make you uncomfortable? And he's like, yeah. And I go, okay, I can't help. I don't know what to say. So then that's on the table. And then time goes by and he's talking about his kids. And he's talking about where he's from. And the more he talks, I could feel his heart open. And it's really, really nice in there. And he's talking and his heart is open. And I'm feeling the heart so strong that I start to I can't focus on what he's saying because he's got all this. He tells me he's a Libra and I know Libra energy really well. And I explained to him what a Libra is. And he's like, that's exactly what I am. How'd you know that? And I was like, well, astrology is real. And he's like, wow, that's intimidating also that you know me that well. I go, well, fuck, you told me you're a Libra. I know what Libra is. And he was like, wow. So then he's talking in this Libra way and his love is coming from his heart and it's hitting my heart. And I finally say to him, I'm so sorry. I know you're saying words, but it's really hard for me to hear them because I really want to hold your hand. And I'm really proud of myself for saying it because it was really vulnerable. I was so feeling the vibes from him that I just really wanted his hand in my hand. It was just so warm and lovely. And I was like, I need to hold his hand. So I say that and he says, what? Why? And I go, why? And he goes, yeah, why? And I go, why do you think? Because I like you. And he goes, oh, you do? I go, yeah. He goes, what? But why? And I go, because I can feel your heart. He goes, you can? I go, yeah. He goes, what's it like in there? I go, it's really open and it's really warm. And it's like talking to my heart. He goes, it is really open in there. It is really warm. I go, yeah. He goes, I got to go to the bathroom. He just gets up and goes and I go, okay, all right. And I'm thinking, is he washing his hands so we can hold hands? Why is he going to the fucking bathroom? Goes to the mid-sentence about holding hands. Okay, now I feel really vulnerable. I've put myself out there. He's walked away from the table. He comes back, he sits down and launches into a series of stories about car accidents that he's been in and surgeries he's had on his body. And at a certain point, there's a pause in the conversation and I say, can I ask you a question? He goes, yeah. I go, when I said I wanted to hold your hand and you said why, can you tell me why you said why? And he was like, oh, well, I thought you were going to maybe suck my soul out of my body through my hand. And I go, I'm not a vampire. And he goes, no, I know. And then we just sat there and then he's like, cool, well, let me launch back into these car accident stories. And I'm thinking, what the fuck is going on? Finally, I have to say to him, hey, I'm really sorry. After the fourth car accident story, we have to stop this line of conversation because I'm an empath. So I feel everything you're saying. When you talk about the man whose legs are twisted, I can't anymore. It's hurting my body. And he's like, oh, okay, right. And he keeps going. And I go, no, I don't think you understand. It's actually hurting my, I can't, let's just not. How about we talk about the weather? And I try to make a joke out of it, And he's like, right, the weather. Anyway, so this other guy, and I'm like, he is not hearing me and not getting it. And finally, I'm just really firm about it. And I'm like, I'm getting actually nauseous from hearing this. And he doesn't understand. And I have to explain it. And he goes, all right. And then he stops telling his stories. And I could tell he's really uncomfortable about it. And I say, I hope you know it's not personal. I actually just feel deeply everything. He was like, yeah, okay. And then it was just weird. And then we had some other chit chat and he walked me to my car and he was like, well, this was actually really fun and I'd love to do it again, which really surprised me because he had rejected my handhold and never touched my hand ever.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I guess he doesn't want to hold my hand. So then we didn't hug at the car and he just went away and he said, let me know when you get home safe. And I texted him safe home and he said, I had a really great time. I had a ton of fun. And I was like, okay. I go, me too. Bye. And then every girlfriend I've told that story to has said yeah, you terrified him because he's she could see inside my body. And I'm not sure I don't know this chick. So do I want her to see inside my body? I don't know. And so he's intimidated and might not either is and I'm out or is that's intriguing, but I'm a little scared and we'll have to find out.
He needs a little more. Yeah.
Context.
I mean, my take on it would be, were that me, I would be going, I might be in a space of I really like this woman, but well, that shocked me. And I want to honor the fact that I can't just go yeah.
Right.
But I'm also into her. So maybe,
I see.
Let me graduate. Let me dip my toe in a little more smoothly.
Right.
I think he's probably still interested or he's not. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if you reach out to him, I think it's worth going back in because I think you just freaked him out a little bit.
Right.
But the fact that he didn't go, and his reaction was pretty intense, I'm going to put up a wall. But that's what we do. We freak out. We go awkward. But you feel his heart. It's actually
Right.
there, so you can probably keep going.
What do you think about the idea that he pounded 3 beers?
I have no idea because I don't know what beer is like for people anymore.
Really? What do you mean?
Depends on the beer. Like, were they really high alcohol beers? A lot of people pound 3 beers.
Okay.
Yeah. 5 beers, I'd be like, nah.
Okay. I did ask him.
3 is like just at the limit of like, that's fine.
Okay. See, because I'm such a lightweight. I have 3 sips of a beer and you got to drive me home.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't do it. Hell no. He's a big zaddy who rides motorcycles.
Oh, my God. He's so big and zaddy. I want him on my body.
Horseman's here. We should bring him in. All right. All right. Letting him in.
Now you're caught up.
There we go. Letting him in. I got it. Here he comes. It's like I've never done this before. I've done it 1,000 times.
You're a very capable, attractive gentleman.
Thank you. I needed that.
I believe in you.
Here comes Richard Horsman. Maybe. He might have stepped away from his computer when we told him we'll let you in a second.
Oh, my God. It's Richard Horsman who's muted. Richard Horsman with no video on. Dun, dun, dun.
And now I'm here.
Yay.
Okay.
Hello, Katie.
First of
Hello,
all,
Cassidy.
oh, my God. It's Richard Horsman.
Nice to meet you.
Richard Horsman. Why do you look like you're in a legitimate sound studio, but there's a cat cave and a lot of books?
Because my pandemic hobby was, so I basically live like everybody in the business world. I live in Zoom meetings now.
Right.
So I present in them. I work with my coworkers in them. Blah 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 blah. So. You know, when I started that, I was like, ugh, this laptop camera sucks. I'm going to add an external camera. Ugh, this laptop mic sucks. I'm going to add an external mic. Ugh, I don't like the mic presentation. I don't like where it is. And that ended up being, now I got a boom. And I got 2 ring lights and just, that's my life.
So you don't have a podcast of your own?
No, but I've written down a few ideas.
All right. So Richard Horsman, everybody, college buddy. We have to give a little context about you. We did improv together. Cassidy, Richard is the you of my college years.
Great.
Essentially. Like we were, except I would say, maybe you can help me with this, Richard. Here's how I sort of like characterize our dynamic. You were like the person in Mr. Gadd's, which was the name of our improv group, which we should talk about, Mr. Gadd's House of Comedy. While I tell this story, Cassidy, maybe try to think of what would the acronym Mr. Gadd's stand for. Okay. Richard was the guy who...
Is it MRGADS?
Yes.
Okay. I'm working on it.
Richard, you were sort of like the really smart, eccentric one on the fringe of the improv in a way where I was like intimidated by, you were like a sexy nerd. You were like the kind of nerd where I was like, he's so smart and like a little bit of a bad boy that like I'm afraid. Like he's clearly kind of nerdy, but like in a hot, also does drugs kind of way. Where I was like, I'm afraid. I don't even know how to go there. I'm too like, I shop at the Gap.
Did you also play an acoustic guitar and play hacky sack?
God, no. I had an accordion for a while, but I never played the acoustic guitar.
Of course you did.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Not guitar nerd, accordion nerd, but like also the kind where it would be like, but I also play the harmonica and I also read music and I've also read every book about every harmonica ever. And you're like, you know everything about life.
You're just of the type who does. Got it.
Anyway, yeah, it's a type.
Yeah.
So just like really smart and Richard was always the guy.
Is it like a music zaddy?
But he wasn't a zaddy yet. We were young.
I'm working on the zaddy part now.
You're getting there. Listen, my
Need
point
a little more
is,
silver in the beer.
Gotta get that heavy lifting in. Get that Christopher Maloney shit going on.
Yes.
It was like, and Richard was the improv guy who, in the Sam vein, always has a reference that you're like, I don't know what that reference means, but I'm so impressed that you have that in your back pocket. Like he could pull shit about like World War II and about what flowers do in the first stages of development. You're like, we were doing a bit about going to the Gap. How did this happen? It's brilliant. So that was my experience of you, Richard. Does that land?
Yeah, that lands. And you were the just the natural comedy genius. Also intimidating. Just not intimidating is not the right word, but always like should I approach Katie about this? When you do a scene with Katie, I'm going to be over here. Do that. But you did do something you may have forgotten that I only remembered last week.
Oh, God.
You did a staged reading of my work in progress horrible play, kind of the main female character. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I was pretty nervous about asking her to do that because it was just like this garbage. It was my thesis play, but it was trash.
Why was it trash?
Oh, it's just, I've looked back at, I mean, it's writing in your 20s when you haven't done anything.
Understood.
And just like, you're just trying to ape stuff you've read and but you were kind enough to do that along with some other folks. And I'd totally forgotten that until I was like going through some stuff last week.
Huh. Yeah. I don't remember it at all. I wish I did.
That's for the best.
Where did we do it on campus?
Oh God, it was probably like the Black Box Theater, that back room area. It was just
what was the college, the university?
Amherst College.
Okay.
Yeah.
Teeny tiny, fancy Amherst White People College.
If you pronounce the H, we know you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, pretty much.
Amherst Shibboleth.
All right.
Yeah.
Got it.
I always want to know too, like, do people at other colleges in their 20s call each other by their first and last name, or was that an Amherst thing?
I think it's so.
It was Elliot Greenbaum and Richard Horsman and Courtney Munch. Like it was never just Courtney.
I think theater people like showing that they could do the like do because you're like Katie Rubin, Keith Romer. I got shortened to Horse a lot just because Richard Horsman has all those in it. But yeah, like Katie Rubin. It's fun to say.
Like it's a rhythmic thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I just want to return to a moment that occurred a moment ago, which was you were talking about how he does references and he just slipped in. Yeah, it's like a shibboleth and moved on. And I'm going to go out on a limb. I only recently learned about the concept of a shibboleth. Katie, do you have any idea what that is?
It was so obscure, I didn't even register it had happened. I didn't even hear him say that. I'm thrilled. Now I need to know all about.
This is how people work with me. Like they start to put the filter on. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, I need annotations for this. Just
no, but it's not for me though, it's not an eye roll thing. It's more of a like, what does that mean?
So he said Amherst, if you put the H in, we know what we know you don't know.
Yeah.
It's a shibboleth. Because that's what a shibboleth is. It's like a code. It's like a secret code that is inserted in some common parlance so people know where other people might. And it goes back to like a biblical story or something where it was like if they said Amherst, you were like, nope, you're not getting in. That H was the shibboleth, was the code, was the secret key.
I get it.
It's like a password.
If you like Bay Area people, if you say Frisco, they know you don't know the city.
And actually, not true.
Really?
There's a deeper reality to that one that I've heard from some. I'm going to be clear, like old school neighborhood goes back a ways. Black folks have said to me, that's bullshit. Also, Carl the Fog was completely made up by some techie about 5 years ago.
I don't know what that is. Let's come back to it.
They named the fog Carl, and now that's like a cool hip thing to say. Oh, Carl the Fog.
Oh.
Which is funny. I like that. But they were like, actually, a lot of folks have called it Frisco for an awful long time.
Huh.
So like there's an earlier phase of no, it is what it's called. And then there's a later phase of like if you were an outsider coming in and probably a white guy, if you said Frisco, we probably knew you didn't know it. But there's a deeper shibboleth on that.
But couldn't we say that this is layers, though? This is like white people culture and black people culture. So we're talking about like white people are like, Frisco's lame, but black people are like, bitch, Frisco's what it is.
We've been calling it. Yeah. But not all, like maybe only in this neighborhood or something. I was surprised to hear this. I had never heard it.
I learned
someone
something
posted
cool
about it and I was like, okay. And I know that her family has roots in San Francisco. So I was like, I'm not going to say you don't know.
When the Blu-rays come to take me to my home planet, I will ask them if we can name our ship the Shibboleth because it feels like an alien ship name, don't you think?
But also then like there's a thing about you can't get to this planet unless you know.
Oh, see, layers.
Dun
dun dun.
Sorry, I interrupted your reverie about John Whack-A-Mole and Ricky Dandan.
Ricky Dandan. That guy was a
Ricky
dick.
Dandan.
What a dick.
The hog on that man, though. Oh my God.
Jesus, this is packing.
It's like this boom arm. We're working blue today, right?
Yeah, we
Always.
mostly do. Have you heard the podcast?
Oh, I've listened.
Okay, good.
Yeah, Richard was telling me about like enjoying the Sam episode, and I was like, keep it caught up. I like it.
Katie hasn't even listened to the Sam episode.
I haven't.
So there's a big gap. Like I've listened to like the first 20 and then like the last 20, and then there's this chunk in the middle.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that first episode with Sam was just like, I had my phase of like, oh, I love Tim Leary, I love Ram Dass, I love Robert Anton Wilson, all those, the psychonauts and that kind of stuff. And then to hear someone who was kind of adjacent to that world, talk about like the mind-body problem and listening to Ravi Shankar on your reel-to-reel, I was like, oh.
Oh, that's my dad. That's Jim.
That's Jim.
You're talking about
Jim.
Jim,
Oh, sorry.
not Sam. Yeah. That's my dad. But yeah.
Yeah, that's the other end of where I am. So Jim, your dad, and then yes, Sam I was just listening to. Actually just finished it this morning, and I was like, oh yeah, I can see how these three would be really fun to watch.
Thanks. Yeah. So yeah, and I was telling you, Cass, Richard was into your dad. I was like, let's get these two together in a room.
You got it. Well,
yeah.
I'm just finishing reading his book that I'm going to be doing the audio book for.
Oh, cool.
His book called Mind Leap, A Fresh Approach to Education Using Systems Thinking and Neural...
Neural Shibboleth?
I should learn the name if I'm going to do the audiobook, but I ran out of juice. I just ran out of knowledge after a moment.
Yeah.
So you should check out the book. That's all I'm saying.
Thrilling. So we do improv together, Richard and I, 100 million years ago. We age. A lot of aging. Time goes by, aging.
It just keeps happening.
Yep.
It won't stop.
Time and age and time. And then how did we reconnect, Richard? Just through Facebook, right?
I think it was Facebook originally. And we would touch base from time to time, and I would kind of look over there and be like, what's she doing now? Manifesting your what now? And then like what she channels? What hi Katie, how it was that kind of thing. And then I think it was more like, then there was a little bit of like, that's really interesting. And I'm, depending on how deep we want to go on this,
always
very deep. Go as deep as you want.
Cool. So when I would run into, so there was a period where I was really into the hardcore skeptic movement, like in the early to mid 2000s. And there's still some value in there, but it turns out most of those guys are dicks.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Because they're fundamentalists in a different direction.
Exactly. Like your Dawkins and your Sam Harris and even some of the more mid-level ones are still, there's that line between contempt and between challenging and contempt, and so many of them cross over it.
Yeah.
There's a few like there's a podcast called Oh No, Ross and Carrie. That's two people that do like spiritual investigations, and they're definitely coming from a skeptical place, but they do it in a very kind way, a very open way. Like they're not bullshitting that we're going to pretend, but like they joined Scientology for like 8 weeks and that kind of thing until they got on the Rogues Gallery and were asked to leave.
Yeah.
Which is a whole nother thing. But like they helped me kind of calibrate like these hardcore skeptics are dicks. Their jokes are bad, which was just, to me, was offensive. Like they're hacks.
Yeah.
Like that flying spaghetti monster shit that like was funny for like 1 second, and then there's still,
I don't know what that is.
Someone started a religion basically wearing a colander on your head and calling yourself flying spaghetti monsters. I still see the value in challenging the exceptionalism that is applied to religion.
True.
That's good.
And so that's what I see it as function as. Like, great, then I'm a religion.
I think the Satanic Temple does a better job of that, though. They're the ones that are...
Oh, they're way better at it.
Yeah, they're the ones that are doing the like, oh, you want a statue of the 10 Commandments? We need a statue of Bahamut next to that then.
Yeah.
Right? Or are you making an exception for Christianity? The flying spaghetti monster is just the, oh, God's sitting on a cloud in the sky. Why do you believe in a sky wizard thing? Like, turned into a joke that was done
wizard
in 30 seconds. And it's...
I think I need a tattoo. I need a tattoo that says Sky Wizard.
You are a Sky Wizard.
I want up. Sky, each word on one boob, like Sky Wizard. Carry on.
Now that goes back to the story you were just telling. That might be the moment that when you finally get down with dude that you were telling me the story about, then he goes, again.
I gotta go.
I gotta go to the bathroom real quick.
Is this the guy you were telling me
Yes.
about earlier? Katie?
Yes.
Oh,
She told me most of the story right up to you arriving. That's why I had to hold you off.
I wanted to catch Cassidy up so you guys were on the same plane so we could touch base into Sky Wizard ladies on dates. We'll come back to that. So you got into the skeptical movement, and then you were like, these guys are dicks.
Hit the limits of that, and then there was this period, probably like 5-6 years, and if we get into human design, we can talk about that whole part of cycles of 7 years. But like 5-6 years ago, I was hitting this point where like I am depressed and anxious all the time. And I'd done like before that, I'd done like a couple rounds of CBT, and it hadn't really landed with me.
Cognitive behavioral therapy for the listener.
No, cock and ball torture.
No, not cockball torture. You know, getting in a dungeon, I thought would really open some things up.
It does for some people. That is some people's therapy.
All I got was Hep C. No, I didn't.
Okay. That was a bad
Didn't
dungeon.
do that. I'm very vanilla.
They were not. They needed to clean their stuff. We just lost
Katie.
Katie.
An editing nightmare for Des. I'm so sorry.
No, he's a fucking master.
He's a genius.
Katie, by the way, you got to listen to the Sam Shaw episode.
Oh, fuck, you're right.
It's really
You're
good.
right.
Desmond's master genius sound
I
effect
can't
work.
fucking wait. I can't wait. Can people please, listeners, please join the Patreon because we need to pay Desmond for his time. He's a genius. Listen to what he does. That's for you, America. He's doing that for your ass.
It's your
All
job
1,000
to
of you.
get him paid.
Pay his ass. Okay, carry on.
So carry on. So where what was I talking about?
Anxious and depressed all the time.
Cock and ball torture.
The leather-faced dominatrix didn't work for me. Leather-faced? Dear God, that's a horrible image.
Leatherface. That was what I was laughing
You went
at.
to the wrong. You go to the wrong people because there's some great people out there, and that was not it.
We should put a pin in the dominatrix conversation because I want to come back to it. Pun intended.
Interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And at the same time, I was having like, I'd always been like, oh, I snore. Oh, sometimes I wake myself up with the sound of my snoring. And my wife had been plotting me about like, you maybe have a sleep disorder. It's like, no, I just snore and sometimes it's loud. I'm really sorry. And then it got to the point where like I would have to leave work early because I was so friggin' exhausted. So at some point I went to my GP, and I'm very lucky that like Western allopathic medicine really works really well for me. There's another shibboleth, allopathic.
Yeah.
So it got to this point where I was like, I went to my doctor, was like, look, I'm anxious, I'm depressed, and my sleep is wrong. And my very good doctor was like, fill out this inventory on depression, and we're going to book you a sleep study. So I fill out this inventory on depression, and she's like, yeah, you're fucked up. She used more medical terminology. We're going to start you on name of drug. Don't let's go down that word. But you also have to see someone. You're like, and I was like, I've done therapy and it didn't really work. Can't I just have better living through chemistry? And she's like, no, you got to see someone. Here's a list. So I basically picked a name at random, and it turned out to be this guy who I've now been seeing for 4 or 5 years, who is a therapist, but he also does mindfulness. Like he's a 70-year-old guy that's been doing Vipassana for decades, does the like 10-day essentially silent retreats, all that kind of stuff. So doing like general kind of therapy with him, but also like him talking about like, and now you're going to go, when you go home, sit each day. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And then after a time that led to, he does workshops sometimes. So we attended a couple of those. And when he restarted those in the tail end of the pandemic, there's this kind of core group of us that meets on Saturday mornings. It's all men, which is weird for Vipassana, but I think that's kind of how it worked in. And, we talk for a bit, we sit for a bit. And this mindfulness thing became part of my life, just very quietly as like, I have to see this guy so I can keep getting my drug and da-da-da-da-da. And then the sleep study was one of those things where everybody I'd known who had one was like, oh God, they stick all this stuff on you. You're not going to be able to sleep a wink. It's going to be terrible. But if you can just get like 20 minutes of sleep, they can diagnose it. So I go in, they put all this stuff on me. And the next thing I know, there's this voice in my ear going, Mr. Horsman, you can turn over if you want to. I was like, what? And I'd already been asleep for like 4 hours. So there was some part of me that was like, you need a fucking diagnosis, dude. Yeah, you're going to sleep with all this crap taped all over you. And then the tech comes in the morning and is like, I am not legally allowed to diagnose you, but you have very bad sleep apnea. And we need to get you like set up very quickly. He did not say you are going to die, but it's eventually very bad for you. So that ended up, I have the CPAP machine I sleep in every night. And that's good for me and good for my wife because I'm not.
Do you like pretend to be Bane just for fun every once in a while?
Sometimes
Or is that joke just old?
Well, it forces air down your throat, so it's more like you could like if you try and do that.
Oh man.
But with all that in place, getting my mental shit on lock and my physical shit on lock, I was very happily going along, and then these things would come up and be like, all right, but there's a big aspect of life, whether you believe in it or not, that you're ignoring the spiritual, you're ignoring the soul, you're ignoring whatever that third element is. And right around then, a little bit earlier, this was a little earlier, but like, we would start to talk more. And then we actually saw each other in New York, which was wonderful. And then, it's just been, and that's, so.
Can I share? Yeah, just to not to fully derail you, but just to say.
No, but I've been going for a while now.
Well, I remember one thing as you were talking. I remember that we were sort of chit-chatty on Facebook, but then one day you said to me, you would comment sort of on things I was posting. And then one day you said, I just want to acknowledge you're one of the good ones. Like, you're actually trying to do good stuff for people. And even though for me, it's not always my lane of how I would do good stuff for people, I really appreciate that you give a shit, because I can tell you're actually trying to help people. And I was like, that's someone I can be friends with. That was a moment where I was like, oh, I'm going to take Richard a little bit seriously, because he's actually seeing me and acknowledging my good intentions. And that's the whole point, because whether you do it through reading books or you do it through channeling light, I don't give a fuck. Like, and the problem is people who give a fuck about there's one right way to be kind to people, or there's one right hat you have to wear to be allowed to know God. Like, that's some fucking horseshit. So anyway, so that's where for me I went like, oh, Richard Horsman, he's a gem. And then we started to have more like actual deep conversations, which is, by the way, side note, this is where I'm a really big fan of social media. It is so complicated and problematic. And, how the fuck would you and I have ever reconnected in an easing in way where you're finding out about me and I'm finding out about you, and we're like, where do we cross over? There's no opportunity for that in life if you don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's really, I mean, there was a moment where, everybody had a blog in the early mid 2000s. That's actually how myself and another friend connected, because I commented on the blog of someone she followed, and she was like, are you that? Okay, you made a horrible joke. You're that Richard Horsman. And then we connected, and then Facebook. So there were those opportunities, but yeah, those big social networks are great. The problem is they're also, like, for the benefit of the listener and for Cassidy, I dropped Facebook in late December, initially because I was trying to avoid a relative, and then kind of like, this has become something where I'm too like, this is reality. So I've been off for a bit, but luckily, like, got synced up with Katie before that. So we're still.
And you still have Messenger, apparently.
Yeah.
That's our Katie. By the way, I'm just going to say it. Katie and Richard, exchange emails. Get your action. Katie was like, I don't have his email. I was like, okay, well, that's probably a thing.
I was trying to email you the link, but I couldn't find it. I couldn't.
I just sent you my human design report.
Oh, yeah, you did. You totally did.
Right there.
I'm a flaky lady.
Also, it's
You're
Katie
right.
and it's technology, so.
That's real. That's real. I will say, last night on this date, tech date guy said to me at a certain point, you seriously don't know how to do that thing with your phone? And I was like, no, I definitely don't know how. Then he picked up my phone and he went, is this from the 80s, this phone? And I was like, it's a fucking iPhone. How old could it be? He was like, this is 2012. And I was like, I have no idea. And then we Googled it and it was from 2012. So like, that's how not in the tech verse I am. Today I had another experience like that. I went to a Starbucks. I drove up to the drive-thru and their credit card machine was down. And they were like, we can only, they're all Zillennials, so they talk like this. We can only take cash or the Starbucks app. And I'm like, all right, well, I have the Starbucks app. So I like open the app and show her my phone. And she's like, you have to log in. And I'm like, okay. So I log in and I'm like, and I show her the app again. And she goes, you have to order something. And I was like, can I order through you and pay through the app? No. And I was like, oh, fucking. And I order through the thing and then I give it to her and she goes, you have to click continue. It went on forever. And I was a grandma. And there was a real way that I was
We
like,
need to shoot that sketch.
I think today is the day.
But you're playing both roles. We're going to shoot that sketch.
Yeah.
But you're dressed as the Zennial, and then it's you on the other side dressed in your most like leopard print dog in a bag.
Listen, I think today was the day something happened to me in that interaction where I went, I am no longer in any amount of resistance to being uncool. I have given up. I don't give any fucks. I am 45. I like myself. I'm old. It's fine. And I'm happy to be the grandma in line who you have to explain shit to. That's where I'm at. Fuck everyone. One of the greatest healing tools I've found in my entire life. This has come up a lot this week, and I wonder if this will relate in any way if we go into your records.
Is it fuck everyone?
That's what's come up. Put your dick in everything you can put it in. If there's a hole, put your dick in it.
That's your whole story.
Yeah. Wait, what did you mean?
You just said, you know what? Fuck everyone. And so I thought that was the big spiritual reveal.
But see, that's the layers. It has layers.
Fuck everyone and fuck everyone.
First it's like, fuck everyone. And then it's like, fuck everyone.
Fuck things with layers. Got it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad we're all on the same page. But this has come up a lot this week, and I do want to get into your records, Richard. I don't want Richard to leave without us getting in his records. It feels
all right. Well, we should get to that.
Pretty important. But point being, people, you know how this happens in my life all the time. The week or the day will have a theme that shows up, right? That shows up all through the fucking week, all through the month. A month will have a theme. This week I have had, I want to say, 4 conversations with 4 different people where I wind up saying to them, you know, the only way through that thing you're describing is to not resist it anymore, but drop into it and let it be true that you're sad. Let it be true that you're depressed. Feel the depression instead of going like, so I'm going to stay bubbly and avoid my depression. You've got to go into that shit, and it may take you years of sitting in there and then get through. That's how you get through. You go in to get through. But people always want to go around or above or with drugs to medicate. They don't want to go in, of course, because it's fucking uncomfortable to go in. But as a healer, I know you have to go in, which comes back to fuck everyone. Penis in.
You have to go in. I see what you did there.
That's what I did there. Now, how the fuck did I get on this topic? Oh, how did we get here? We were talking about themes of the week, but before that, this is a Richard-related something. Anyway, I don't know, but that's been the theme of my week, and I guess I do think of it when I hear you talk, Richard, about, you know, the stuff you're talking about, and how I hear your story through the filter of, I owned that I had some stuff going on, I started to get into it, and now I'm using the tools I'm using. Right now it's mindfulness or whatever it might be, and mindfulness and a CPAP machine. That's your religion. Fantastic. That's your spiritual practice. And I'm like, fuck yeah, because that's called dropping into what's occurring rather than trying to find a way out. And there is no way out except through. There really, really isn't.
Yeah. Well, and the phrase I keep coming back to is checking my assumptions, right? Because that's something I've tried to do my whole life because like anybody I trust, if you ask them, hey, what would you do if you met yourself from 5 years ago? If the answer isn't just like, beat the shit out of that idiot, I don't trust them as much as I did before.
If you see the Buddha on the road, kill him. That's the title of a book, right?
Or maybe encourage them to think differently without beating the shit out of them.
Violent toxic masculinity has entered the conversation.
Exactly.
I want to get into that one. I want to just say about your hardcore skeptic phase. I really appreciate that because I think it's important to note that the actual inquiry into skepticism is a necessary, absolute, I don't know about vital for some people, but on any of these things, like if Katie was just like, I do the records, boom, and then that was it.
Yeah.
Then I'm not sure that you're actually doing the thing. Or I'm a skeptic, and you stopped there. That's where Dawkins has stopped. Like, that's my identity is here. And you've stopped inquiring. You've stopped questioning because you have now landed on this new dogma, right? And so you have to go through that. Like, I came on this podcast, I gave myself the title on our first podcast of like friendly skeptic. Didn't last 3 episodes because I was going to try and be on here and be like, but is that really what's happening, Katie? Because what I was witnessing was like genius information coming through. That's all that matters. I don't give a shit what Katie's way of getting this knowledge to me is, but it's fucking real. So great. And then that allows me to continue inquiring, and I still question things and I still do that thing. But if I just stopped at friendly skeptic, that's a boring place to live.
Really
You know what I
is.
find interesting on that? I totally agree. That's the whole thing. Dogma, I think, is the problem. Anything we marry ourselves to that then becomes solidified and there's no more fluidity around is problematic, period. It makes me think about Judaism and how I love me some Jews. Like Jews, it's like my people. It's like I come from the tribe, right? And then whenever I get close to friends of mine that are deeply Jewish, the way that inquiry and question is central to Judaism. Judaism is about like think about God,
Right?
Like, like question God, understand, but never know, but ask a fuck ton of questions. I found it really interesting to discover that sometimes certain Jewish folks can get dogmatic about that. Like that becomes solidified in brick of like, well, you can't actually know God at all in your body. And I'm like, I do. And they're like, no, you can't because it's only questions. And I'm like, guys. We all need to understand anytime you go, it's only this. That's all of you doing the thing that separates you from each other. When the whole thing is unity, and unity happens through there's no one right fucking path. Hello? But boy, is that hard for human beings. We want the ego and the mind, they want to be right so badly. And we think it's going to maintain something that matters, some sense of self that's real. It's not. It's the illusory self. It's the self that has to die in order for you to know yourself in an intimate, true, connected, essential way, if you care about that, which a lot of people don't.
And there is value from those different streams. Like that skeptical world, I've definitely moved on from it, but like there is value in the tools of like I'll brew a name that I'm sure like half your listeners will go, but James Randi did a lot of great work in his life.
That's the amazing Randy.
The amazing Randy.
He was the one who was debunking psychics.
Oh, okay.
Like people, like debunking people like Uri Geller, like the real, like, we've talked about, Katie, you're one of the good ones. There's plenty of the bad ones out there.
Sketchy ones. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sketchy. It's about money. It's about control. It's about power. It's very valuable to have that toolbox to calibrate. And also for like, all right, this person is about control and power, but they do have something I can learn from them. How far in can I go to this world before, like, am I going to toss it all out? We were talking about one the other day. You Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh in Wild Wild Country.
Right.
Like just awful person, awful people with him. But how many spiritual people do you know that are really into Osho?
Yeah. And they don't know.
Osho quotes and so on. And it's same guy. So there is value there, real, genuine spiritual value. But you also have to know what else was part of that.
Yep.
And,
yep.
But you can't toss both out.
I know. That's the thing, too, about like, see, this is what I like about the spiritual path. I'm actually getting my little document out so I can write your full legal name down because I'm ready to get in your records, bitch.
Okay.
That's how she starts every session with her clients.
Sit down, bitch. Let's open your fucking records. Take it out. Yeah.
Nasty little records.
Your records are dirty.
Dirty.
Bend over and let me see your records. God is in your taint. I'm so sorry.
Again, dirty.
So
Well, he is everywhere.
No one's going to ever trust you again. This is good.
Oh boy. I got an email the other day from OMA, is this lovely organization in Pittsburgh that I did a show through them, and they're producing this class I'm about to lead. It's a 5-week class. You should come to it. Everybody's listening. We start next Monday, April 4th. And it's called Waking the Sleepers. So I'm going to activate people's light body and heal and do all the things. But I got an email from them this week where John, the lovely guy who runs it with this amazing woman, Gail, and he said, hey, could you remove this person from your mailing list? Because he's like one of our people, and he wrote us a very long, stern letter about how he really liked you until you dropped so many F-bombs in your show. And then he liked you until you started emailing him all the time, inviting him with F-bombs to a spirituality thing. And I was like, and I wrote back like, I will happily drop him because he is not my people. And I understand. But it's just so funny to me when that, like, I want to put it so in the foreground that people, because either it's your thing or it's like, if those two things are so incongruous for you, like if you can't live in, and then I hear you. That's understandable. That's not what this is.
I mean, maybe you should put that if I fuck you, I'll know your life story on your dating profile so that Zaddy doesn't get freaked out by it.
That's both horrifying and it's such a good idea.
Or maybe a lighter version of that, but you know. My vagina is magic or whatever. My vagina is a wizard. I think you said that at one point.
Pussy wizard. I'm a pussy wizard. Yeah. Wait, but I've told both of you know that, right? From the date last night, did I tell both of you this about how I basically said to him, well, I was saying it like,
if we make out, well,
yeah, jokingly. I was like, well, if we hug each other, then I'll know your whole life story. And he was just like,
what?
I have to go to the bathroom.
And he rubbed one out and came back.
Something weird went on.
He wanted to like clear the chamber because that chamber maybe contained information that he was like, I don't want her to have this info, so I need to clear this DNA information.
I thought it was sweet. My friend Kat's response was, she said, what is it I wonder that he's so afraid you'll see? And I was like, yeah, exactly. And then that makes me kind of nervous about him because I go, what are you so afraid what do you think I haven't seen? Do you think there's anything I haven't seen? But he doesn't know. How does he know?
it's your stuff that hasn't been seen yet. I mean,
right.
That exposure,
the vulnerability of it.
I mean, I'm no stranger to how awful unwanted thoughts can get. And when you start to identify those as those are you, or a really like the most important part of you, yeah, people, you get terrified of people getting exposed to that. There's a monster in there.
No, that's so super fair. I'm biased, deeply biased, because I've had so many years of, this is the gift of the 12-step rooms, is that they teach you over and over and over again that you're only as sick as your secrets, and you're only as alone as your secrets. So everything I won't share with you keeps me separate from you. And addicts in early sobriety are so desperate to not be alone. Like, we are such isolated, sad sack loners that somebody teaching me a tool, hey, if you share your truth in these meetings and you tell the actual horrible, naked, vulnerable truth, people will come closer to you. That was a life-changing revelation for me that worked. And so I lived steeped in it for 15 years, a long time ago. So for me, it's so organic that if you and I are hanging out, I'm going to go, here's my entire life, because then we'll be closer. And that's how you do safety. But other people don't have that framework in their history. And the thing that's interesting about it to me is I have empathy for the fact that they don't have that in their framework. So I understand. But I also happen to know it does work better. It actually works better if we're transparent with one another. The whole thing works better. So I got to calm down and be patient about it, though, because people can't just like strip naked like I can immediately, emotionally, So he's not some big crazy loser. He's just a human man who hasn't sat with people being like, here's the depths of my soul. It's a Tuesday. And now you know what my grandmother's name was.
Some people need to pump the brakes a little bit just to be like,
I know. I'm the weird one.
We should jump in.
Let's do it. Richard, what's your full legal name, the name that's on your driver's license?
Name on my driver's license is Richard Page, Page, Horsman.
So do not pronounce an E when you say his name.
Correct. Don't even Page and then Horsman.
You mean no I? Paig?
No, there's no E in Horsman.
There's no I in Page and there's no E in Horsman.
Horsman. Got it. I'm caught up. Horseman.
You're right. Richard and I are on the same page.
Right?
Yes.
Hey. I see what you did. Before you came on, I was like, you're going to like Richard. Richard is you. You guys are of oneness.
This is not working out. Katie, you should be doing this podcast with me. Get rid of that fucker.
Well, actually, you could probably be the sub.
So let's do this. They teach you in Akashic Records school, never do the prayer without reading it and never memorize it. And I'm like, so after saying it 6,000 times, you think I'm not going to accidentally memorize it? Like, what? That's weird.
Also, that's a never. That's a rule.
Yeah. Hello.
We don't do rules.
Nah. All right. So we'll close our eyes and I'll kind of drop in a little quicker than usual. And so we do acknowledge, before that, we'll take a few deep breaths into the low belly, all of us together. Just deepening the connection to the pelvic floor, feeling into the first and second chakras at the base of the spine and the low belly. And we do this just to get a more intimate emotional connection or physical connection with self down at the Unahapili or the Dantian or the inner child there in the second chakra, low belly. And so we breathe into that area, allowing the muscles of the low belly to relax. To the best of our ability. We'll feel into the bottoms of our feet as we continue to breathe into the low belly. And we'll visualize a little spinning foot chakra at the bottom center of each foot, spinning open and spinning wide like a little tornado of light, like a little vortex opening at the bottom center of each foot. And we'll watch that vortex open at the bottom center of each foot and get wider and wider until eventually that vortex gets so wide and so open that the entire surface area of the bottom of each foot is just an open window, allowing the electromagnetic field of our bodies to communicate directly with the electromagnetic field of the earth below us, just through the open field of the bottoms of each foot, and just through our imaginal intention for this to be the case. And so we'll watch now, with no efforting, no trying, no pushing, no pulling. We'll watch as 500 energetic tree roots of light extend through the open window of both of our feet, down hundreds of miles into the earth. 1,000 tree roots of light anchoring down hundreds of miles into the earth through the open windows of our feet. 500 through the left foot, 500 through the right foot. And we'll just consciously acknowledge that these tree roots of light come from, or are extensions of, the tree of light that is the consciousness of you, your body, your mind, your soul, your spirit, your being, your essence, your vibratory field. Just allowing ourselves to connect to the planet a little bit. Lastly, we'll just see a nice wide in our mind's eye grounding cord, like a tunnel or a tube, extending from the base of your spine or the hips straight down to the center of the earth, like a tunnel or a tube. We'll see it shoot to the center of the planet, and we'll watch as a river of light, just through our imagination, flows up from the earth through that grounding cord into the base of your spine, flooding the base of your spine with light, conscious awareness, healing energy, love. It doesn't matter if you feel this or just imagine it. It's all good. We'll watch that river of light flow down through your hips, quads, and glutes, hamstrings, knees, calves, shins, ankles, and feet. Nourishing, activating, awakening the meridians of both legs. And we'll watch that river of light flood down into all of those 1,000 tree roots of light below us now. Nourishing, activating, awakening them. And so we do acknowledge the forces of light, asking for guidance, direction, and courage to know the truth. As it is revealed for our highest good and the highest good of everyone connected to us. Holy Spirit of God, protect me, please, from all forms of self-centeredness. Direct my attention to the work at hand. I'm going to open two things at once because I'm getting that. Help me to know Richard Page Horsman and consciousness itself in the light of the Akashic records. Help me to see Richard Page Horsman and consciousness itself through the eyes of the lords of the records, and enable me to share, please, the wisdom and compassion that the masters, teachers, and loved ones of Richard Page Horsman and consciousness have for Richard Page Horsman and consciousness. And I'll go quiet for just a moment. Okay. So I don't know if you've caught this through listening to this podcast at all, Richard, but sometimes when I get into someone's records, there's an immediate kind of flow of something, maybe energy, maybe an awareness. So they want me to share a little something. And this is actually more for my understanding and for the listener and for anybody for whom it feels relevant. You know, this is a chart, they say. This is like a person. This is a being. This is an energy field that is intimately woven into, merged with, one with the field of consciousness. This is a conscious being who has some awakening that it needs to do. That, which is to say, the body machine needs some could use some activating, clearing, awakening, integrating, just for the sake of bringing the body to the level of the consciousness of the being. In other words, your being is quite evolved, quite advanced, quite merged with the realm of conscious awareness, the all that is, right? Nothing to do with divinity, spirituality, or religion, frankly, but more to do with just consciousness. This is the design, if you will, of someone who is of the future and is here in this incarnation, in this lifetime, to present or to stand in the energy of and as future possibility frequencies of light. So people look at you and go, consciously, unconsciously, and places in between. They say to themselves, he's not operating the way you should. And that shows me that I could possibly break the chains of my operational, what's that called? My operating system. I could perhaps throw off the trappings of this behavioral construct I live into as a result of my childhood, upbringing, television, whatever. So know that just by being authentically yourself, authentically eccentric, authentically you activate in others a sense of possibility for their own liberation into their own truth. And if you want to feel more, how shall we say, aligned with purpose, purposeful, if you desire to feel more of a direct connection with your whole conscious purpose in this lifetime, be more vocally, visibly, distinctly yourself in public, aloud, in front of people. You already are, and you have permission and encouragement from the vast beyond to lean into that. Lastly, and then we'll listen to what you have to say. For Katie, I've had deep inquiry about, we've talked about it on here, the relationship between spirituality, spirit, and consciousness. And as she was dropping into and opening this person's records, she became aware of the frequency of his field, which then was so intimately connected with the frequency of consciousness that she needed to open the records of both to understand something for herself, which is to say, spirit, for many, is not actually required for the unfoldment of their purpose, for the complete living into of the purpose of that body-mind organism. Spirit is not always required. For you, Katie, it is. It's part of your thing. For Richard Page Horsman, it's not relevant. And this is the teachings we're offering you, particularly, this is for me, thank you for your patience, through your study of human design, which is to teach you just how individuated humans are. Just how the dawning of this time, 2027, where the collective starts to wake up to the value of individuality, we need you to understand as a leader, because that is your role in this moment of activation. We need you to understand just how intimately different the machines, the body-mind organisms of different beings are. This will be a large part of your purpose going forward. This is for me, to understand those distinctions. Okay, so that had to happen. Richard, I hope that has some value. Does that land? Any questions, any thoughts? I'm going to keep my eyes closed just so I could stay with the space.
It does. Should I keep my eyes closed or?
No, you don't have to if you don't want to.
Okay, I'll see how I feel. It does. It does. It relates to some things I've been thinking about. And that whole question of if I'm starting to open to spirit, to the divine, to that part of human experience, one of the things I've been wondering about is, do I have to pick a specific path? Is there a school I should join? Is there a practice I should have? Is there something? And that we've talked about that sacral authority. I get a on that, but I also, that's coming from decades of that being a really poisonous place for me. So I want to trust the but there's so much
history behind that I'm still struggling with. Is it a real, or is it, it's checking those assumptions again.
Yeah, that's great. Well, here's some words about that. For you, it's like this. It's like, it's so funny because these days, whenever I'm in the records, they show me, I'm looking at it through my eyes at your human design chart, and it's not up in front of me, but I can see the whole thing right now. That's so weird. Anyway, the point is for you to really lean into the centers that are defined and practice playing with in the form of an experiment, trusting the trusting, practicing small questions, grocery store or park, play with the cat or take a nap, whatever it is, small questions and then bigger questions. And you build the trust through practicing or playing with the experiment. But what we wish you to understand is that, okay, the vast, spacious realm of conscious awareness feels light and bright. You are a being that is designed to function from the vast space of awareness that is known as consciousness. So when you get an or an it will take you into energy frequencies in your reality that are light and bright. So anytime you're getting into a frequency that is heavy or a frequency that is dense, or a frequency that's very worried about itself, or a frequency that's very serious, or a frequency that's very sad, understand that you are functioning from conditioning and the not self. Or you could say a part of you that hasn't awakened to the simplicity and the beauty of the space of consciousness. So do you need a spiritual practice of a certain lineage? No, because even spiritual practices have, Katie could speak to this. Each spiritual lineage has a frequency, like a density, actually. Conscious light, conscious awareness is very light. It's nothing. It's everything and nothing. It's space. And think of how quickly space moves, if you will, metaphorically. Like time space. What is time space? Very light, very bright, not a thing. To make an example of this, the Sufi lineage, the spiritual alignment of Sufism, it has a warm, loving, nurturing, godly feel. And that is more dense than the space of consciousness. You are meant to function from the vast, light, bright space of conscious awareness, period. So you don't require, through the machine of your being, any frequencies that are any more dense than that. Now, for the listener, if you do require a Sufi lineage or a Christian lineage or whatever it might be, a mystical spiritual path for your sanity and wellness, please don't make yourself wrong. Like Richard is right and you are wrong. No one is superior. Each vehicle is unique and they're designed how they're designed for a fucking reason. And that reason is important. Individuality is important. Okay. Think about any ecosystem. If you have trees and grass and feces that feeds the trees and the grass and the flowers, they each do different things. We don't have one tree fed by one kind of fecal matter. We have a panoply of all kinds of stuff on this beautiful planet because of diversity. Okay, so point being, if you need the frequency of Sufism or Christian mysticism or whatever you need in your field, if that is real for you, use that, allow that to be nourishing, nurturing, activating, and awakening for you until it no longer is, and then move along to whatever the next thing is that you need on your path. But no one is to judge themselves for what they are or what they need. Okay, that's just consciousness talking to everyone, just to be clear. Okay, Richard? Questions, thoughts, feelings?
Yeah, that actually links into kind of the heavy question I wanted to ask.
Ready.
Which, I have been in an extended period of being angry at death. And it's one that, like, when I interrogate that for myself, I get this is right for you right now. I have lost abruptly a couple of people who, the phrase I'll use is before their time. Obviously, that doesn't mean something in other contexts, but they were gone before they should have been. That is the flag I'm putting in the ground on that. It feels right for me, and it maybe goes to trusting that gut, and also what you were saying about being in the light and brightness, because while there is an acceptance and a necessity to death, there is, I feel like I'm in opposition to death. I see death as a tyrant right now, and I feel okay with that. But it's one of those things that it's a strong stance. So I've been curious about what that is doing to me, if it's right, if it's not right.
Okay. All right. So this is, I can feel it. I'm feeling into it with you. Down. It's funny because it's down in that defined center at the bottom. I think it's the root. Anyway, down into chakras 1 and 2, and then up over. Anyway, this is a stage. It's an important stage. Here's why it's important. You are correct, it is important. But don't forget, like everything else, it's a stage. It's transitory. It's going to pass. If you work with it in the way that it's meant to be worked with. So let's say you were depressed about death. We would say, this is a stage, work with it. Then you'll get to anger about death. That is a stage, work with it. Then you'll get to actual acceptance of death. Well, isn't that nice? But it comes through working with the stages before it. You can't, this world, people think they can hop from depression to acceptance, and that is fucking bullshit. It's a lie. And that's what you were all talking about, and why we were poking that concept earlier of dropping in, be with. This is the theme of Katie's week, because this is the theme of Katie's week. In other words, the point to discuss here for people listening is there is no way out of your discomfort except through it. And people think, well, that means, okay, I have to accept my discomfort forever. No, that would be permanence. There is no permanence. There is no permanence, America. Nothing is permanent. Nothing. So, be with your anger so intimately, so angrily, that it takes you to tears, that then water the dried landscape of your anger, and then bring you to allowance. And we would call it allowance in your case rather than acceptance. Acceptance has sometimes the energy of resignation in it. Allowance is fluid. Allowance says this is, and what else is? It's moving. It's a moving target. It moves. I allow this to come through rather than I accept it as it is forever. Permanence is a lie. If we were, Richard Horsman, to give you one thing we would like you to really, really get, it's there are reliable energies you can function from in your own design and your own system, and nothing is permanent. Which seems like a paradox, right? Like, if something is reliable and it functions in a fixed way, isn't it permanent? No. It's simply reliable and functions in a fixed way. So use the vehicle of your awareness, as a reliable vehicle to take you through the very impermanent, inconsistent, and changing shape of reality. Does that make sense?
It does. It makes a lot of sense.
I'm just going to insert a time nudge here.
Mm-hmm. While I was saying a very holy prayer, but
Sorry.
No big deal.
We
It's
both
fine.
started talking at the same
Totally
time.
fine. Give me just a moment. I need to do this just for a second. I just want to articulate this, and then I'll wrap up. Thank you for the time nudge. I totally get it. It's very beautiful to me. I'm just watching how Okay. I'm always being taught, right, through this stuff. So something I'm getting that's just really stunning, actually, is... okay, by my being in acceptance and allowance and full receptivity of Richard's frequency through the records, right, through the realm of consciousness, it's like in fully allowing his being to be what it is, because his being is so consciously awake. Now remember, we have a little homework for you to wake that body up. That's where all the stuff for you comes from, is body stuff. You got to do healing, clearing, therapy, whatever you want to meditate, whatever. Just wake that body up to match it to the frequency of your conscious awareness. Anyway, but as I sit here with his conscious aware being, the truth of it is so true that it pulls me into my own being, which has spirit in it. And then I'm taken into my heart and I'm like having a spiritual experience over here just through the practice of honoring and allowing Richard to be exactly what he is. None of which I'm very good at outside of the Akashic records or outside of a spiritual practice. It's so easy to go to in the human form. Here's how we're different and here's how that's a problem. Right? That's what humans are dealing with all the time. This is why we make an argument for waking up and having conscious awareness and having spirituality, whichever or however form or forms it takes for you, is because it's in these spaces of awareness that you can see beyond the human limitations of ego and mind. Why bother, you might ask? Because wouldn't you rather have an ecstatic experience of love that comes at the hands of just being in allowance of someone else's energy? Wouldn't you rather have that than be separated and right? That's what your world is doing, everyone. You are doing separation and rightness. Is that what you want, really? Or would you prefer connection, communion, oneness, love, freedom, liberation? We will keep trying. We will keep trying through the vehicle of this Katie Rubin form, because she doesn't have a choice, really, to speak to the value of unity. It's very hard to come back lifetime after lifetime and watch people over and over again miss the entire point. We could be skipping down a fucking riverside, holding hands, loving each other. All of us. That's real. That's not hippie bullshit. That's just what could be happening. So, and so it is that we continue trying, hoping somebody's listening, not for our own sake, but for the sake of conscious awakening, which brings unity and love. That's all we're trying to do. There's no ulterior motive. Can you, listener, hear that? Can you hear there's no motive here? We don't want your money. We need some of it to survive. But we're not trying to take you away from yourself. We're trying to give you yourself and the entirety of the universe through your heart. Is that so manipulative? Thank you for being here, Richard. You brought me back into connection with this part of myself.
It's my pleasure.
So I want to thank the masters, teachers, and loved ones for their love and compassion, the lords of the records for their point of view, and the Holy Spirit of light for all knowledge and healing. I ask that you return all of Richard Page Horsman's energy to himself, sad though it is for me to lose it. I ask that you return him to his complete human wholeness now. The divine portal and the Akashic records of Richard Page Horsman are now closed. I'm going to keep consciousness open. The divine portal and the Akashic records of Richard Page Horsman are now closed. Divine portal and the Akashic records of Richard Page Horseman are now closed. Amin, amin, amin. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammad abduhu wa rasulullah.
It feels so trite, but wow.
That word is uttered often.
I don't know what to say. Wow seems pretty spot on. I feel like that too. Like I'm so humbled by what comes through. I'm just like, what? Wow. Thank you.
Thank you. I wish I could touch you.
I know. Let's hug.
Careful. If you touch her, she'll know everything.
Oh, God. She already knows everything.
I already do. And this, by the way, for the listener, this is the value of Scorpio and Aquarius together. No joke. I've talked to Richard about how I'm Aquarius sun, he's Scorpio sun, but he's got Aquarius rising, right?
Yeah. Sag
yeah. And I have Sag rising. Anyway, we're very good friends. And it's because of the things that Scorpio can bring to the field of Aquarius and the things Aquarius can bring to the field of Scorpio. They can't be, it's a very nice pairing. Like it really, I see it all the time. It happens over and over. I'm shown it through other people. I'm shown it in my own life. They really help each other. So anyway, if you're an Aquarius out there, go find some Scorpios and love up on them.
We're not so bad once you get to know us.
Because miracles are possible. Yeah. Fucking people are afraid of Scorpios. It's so dumb. They're the best.
It's a threatening sign. I mean, that's right there in the name. It's, I get it. We got bad symbology. We need a marketing campaign.
Everybody's so afraid of all the things. Okay. Well, Cass?
I got nothing else to add to this. I'm just a bunch of two-faced people, so... You know.
Gemini.
Yeah, and it's all over my chart. I'm Gemini here, Gemini there.
Remind me again, where is it? It's
Sun, Moon, Mercury.
Oh, yeah.
And then I think Libra rising. I always forget.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
It could be a lot of things, but I'd believe that.
Yep. So there you go. I don't know anything about Libra. I know Geminis people don't trust either for different reasons. We're not dangerous. We're just not trustworthy.
Right.
Because you know who you're getting.
You're too social butterfly-y. You can chameleon everywhere. You can be everything. You could be everyone's friend. What does that mean? Scary.
Scary. Go do your work.
Yeah, do your work.
Go do your work.
We love you, Richard. Thank you for being here.
Pleasure meeting you, man.
Cass, it was great to meet you.
Okay.
Hope to see you again. All right.
Do your work. Bye.
Bye.
What are you asking for? All of the answers? Say what? All of the answers? Yeah, all the answers.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. We'd love to hear from you. Please email us with your questions so that we have questions to answer in the Akashic Records. Our email address is allanswerspod@gmail.com. That's allanswerspod@gmail.com. And if you'd like to find us on Facebook or Twitter, it's @allanswerspod, @allanswerspod. Thank you.
Ooh, that's good. I'm glad I recorded that.
Mixed and edited by Desmond McNeese for We Mixed It, LLC. Go to whatsoundsawesome.com.